So, and I tell people, you live in the ghetto? I said, no, no, no. Your mind is a ghetto. Whatever you hold up there that's not good, get rid of it. You create your own faults.
Right.
What you think, you become it.
I agree.
And I always tell them, whatever you want to be, the Lord said, be good at it. So whatever,
if you don't do it right.
Do it right. Yep.
It is September 4th, 2024, and I am speaking with
Betty J. Jenkins.
And where and when were you born?
Birmingham, Alabama, 1941.
Thank you. And what is your connection to Black Bottom?
I lived there, left there 15, I was 15 years old, and they came through with the freeway. So we had to move instantly.
And what's your family, what address did you live at?
999 Henry, between Hastings and Rivard.
And what's your family's story of how they got to Detroit and Black Bottom specifically?
My grandmother lived there. We was coming up from down south, and it was 4 of us living, and Mom had one in the oven, as they say. And Daddy wanted to bring us up here so we can get a better education. So Granny had the place in 2-bedroom, living room, dining room. Wasn't no room for all of us. So we slept in the dining room and the living room, and they had the bedrooms.
And you mentioned, how many siblings did you have?
After coming up here, there was 4 living, 1 in the oven, and after that, it was 26 of us. Here, they were born here. We were born down south, the other 4, and then they was here. 18 brothers and 6 sisters.
And what was it like growing up in Black Bottom?
Terrible. We all had the same thing. One was no better than the other. We all ate the same thing. Scuffling, but to us we were rich because we had life itself. But we were poor. We depended on welfare, as they called it. Now they do ADC or DHS or however they say it, but we was welfare kids, and I was proud of it. I was a good fella baby, and I'm proud of that. And guess what? I'm 82, and they still have what? Good fellas.
And what did your parents do for work when they were here?
My dad was a construction worker, and Mom was a mother at home with all them babies.
And so while you were growing up here, what schools did you attend, and what was that experience like?
Borch Elementary School, Garfield Junior High, and then Eastern High School. So all those was in the same, those were your feeder schools.
And what was the school experience like for you when you were there?
I loved this school. I loved it. Well, you know, you be picked on because we had 6 miles to walk to Borch. Borch School is off of Ferry. We lived on Henry. Go figure. No shortcuts. You had to walk straight down Hastings Street to get to that school. And Daddy somehow would know if we take shortcuts through the alleys and stuff, he would know it. So everybody was family. It takes a village to raise a family. So they connected, and he worked diligently. But was always without food because there was so many of us, you know. And I never got the privilege to play on Saturdays because I was washing clothes.
You had
Didn't
chores.
have a moderate, very much so. Your pay was, we're going to feed you. One no stipend.
And you mentioned that you lived in a 6-family flat.
Yes, we lived in the front, downstairs, because that's where Granny was. And then every apartment in there was kids. They either had 3, Mom had the most. And it was a good thing we lived in the front because there's just too many kids coming in out that door. So it was after my sister, every 9 months, Mom had a baby. And when she was flat stomach, we thought she was sick.
And what were some important places or people that you remember from growing up in Black Bottom?
Oh man, all the older generation. I used to go to make my little money for my little clothes at Sam Cut rates down. It was on Randolph and Gratiot. Hastings. We go downtown and I would take care of the elderly people. I would go and clean their houses for them and take care of them because they family. I could not see nobody not coming to see their family, and I was the only one on the block would go to the store for the elderly people. Then I worked at Barksdale's, uh, what is like a pharmacy. They had the long thing counter for food, and I would do cleaning to make little money to help me and my little brothers them out. So I was like the little breadwinner to come here with the books, and then I buy them little socks when I go to Sam Cut Rate. Get socks for 10 cents a penny. You know, that people just don't understand. Those was the days. 5 cents for, and it was 12 cents for bread, and 12 cents for milk, and cigarettes was all that was 12 cents. When the milk, the cigarettes, and the bread go up, they all go up the same. And we just we didn't have no money. So you had a ledger that you go to the grocery store, you sign your mama's name, and you put down how much was what. And then at the end of that weekend, your daddy get paid, you paid the man. Those was the days, you know, the Black Bottom, because nobody had money.
And what was the neighborhood like when you were growing up? Like, did you?
No grass.
No grass.
No grass. These green pears that be on the trees. We would try to eat them, but they was hard because we didn't wait till they get ripe. Then we would fight with them. We hit each other in the head with them. You know, you throw them. You know, you go in the alley, get in the tree. Because we was all the girls was tomboys. And then you throw them. The boys that you didn't like, you hit them in the head with that. And they didn't see you because you camouflaged yourself in the tree. So it was like really fun. And them big cement garbage cans, they don't have them anymore. And when they get full, it was 6 family flat. You had to close the front and then use the top. And if anybody remember living in that area, those things was like cemented to the ground, and they had the big steel doors, and then you shut them down. So you didn't have a lot of big rats, but you had rats, but they couldn't get in there, and a rat can climb up on anything. But you hung your clothes. You didn't have the facilities that we have now. You didn't have a washing machine, so we used what? Oxygen soap. People don't know about oxygen soap. You used the rubber. They had the tin and the glass. We wore the tin out. Like, that's when my hands and knuckles is like they are now. But we finally could afford a glass one, and the oxygen soap, clean. You soak them for days. In the same tub you bathe in is the same tub you wash your clothes in. So, yeah.
And did you attend church? Did your family attend church when you?
Very much so. Granny was a church person. We had to walk from Henry and Hastings to the west side to the church. We didn't know that the church was where she was going is on the west side. We didn't know about the east and the west. So at that time, if you lived on this side of Woodward, you weren't allowed on the other side of Woodward during that time. And we learned that at a young age. You're fighting going to church, you know. So, what's wrong with these people? So, long story short, it was a bus driver that saw us walking. He felt so sorry for us. There was 16 of us going to church, walking, little feet like this, and Granny just going. And he said, would you like a ride? She couldn't afford all of us on a bus. So the people, he would stop, he'd come off of Hastings, come down Henry to pick us up every Sunday. Our seat was in the back of the bus. Then people looked at us and said, you can't, she said, every one of them is mine. And she counted all of us going. We all covered the whole bottom, the back of the bus. And he would keep it back there for all of us to stop her from walking every Sunday. So church was us.
That's so sweet. And what church were y'all attending?
Christ Temple of Science. Never forget it. What? I said, if I can get off the west side, what's on the west side? We on the east side. But that's where the people went. You didn't have the facilities there on the east like the west had. They had churches on every corner, and it was just fun going to church. We loved it to go to church, and I'd have to iron every Saturday. I had to iron to get those shirts. Argo starch. Women used to eat it when they were pregnant. My mama ate it, and babies were born with the cradle caps from the starch. And I would have to do the starch on the stove and put the collars in and wring them. And then if they know about a smoothing iron, you plug it in and then you iron. It just, you sit it on the stove and it get hot, or you can plug it in with electric, And electric was very rare during this time, because utilities, you didn't have the facility with all these kids. Jesus, oh Lord.
Are there other businesses or places that were significant to you?
Yes, I sold. People not familiar with the newspapers, but I sold the Pittsburgh Courier, the Chronicle, and the Free Press. At that time, they were more diligent. On Fridays, they drop it off, and Saturday, on Sundays you don't work, you don't do anything. You give it to the Lord. But Fridays and Saturdays, we would fold our newspapers and go by it. I never threw it on the porch. We would go up and put it on the porch, because who wants to pay for a paper that's torn? And then when you go and get your money, that paper's torn. And that was my little funds for my little extra clothes that I could wear, And the Goodwill was my friend. And nylon shirts is hard to buy now. You don't even see nylon, but nylon you wear in the wintertime because it's very hot, like the stockings. That's how they got the stockings. You can wear stockings all winter and your legs never get cold. So that's what I wore. And I would get it from the Goodwill. 10 cents. Go and shop like I'm shopping at Hudson's in downtown. I loved it. It was just like like I said, royalty. Because people didn't know that you was going to the Goodwill to get your clothes. They don't, because they don't look like it. Because you were buying wealthy clothes from the Goodwill to wear because you needed them. But we couldn't afford them. But they give them to the Goodwill, you can afford them. And guess what? I'm 82, and it's still going on. The Goodwill and Salvation Army is still there. And you go there, get reputable stuff all the time. And it's very expensive.
Were there any Black-owned businesses or places that you remember?
Yes. Green's Barbecue. It still exists, and I'm 82. I keep saying that. I couldn't believe it. My mother used to make coleslaw and potato salad for them. And they was on Haston between Henry and Rivard. And we would go, I would have to, I hated when Fridays and Saturdays, because I had to make the slaw for my mama. I had to cut it up. And it's made out of cabbage, people don't know. And she would do the salad and it would sell out. Then she would send a note back to the house. Betty Jean, I need some more clothes. Oh, Mama, no, please don't. I didn't have a childhood because I was raising kids, making potato salad and slaw, and barbecue sauce for my mother for Green's Barbecue. Because that's the way she made her money for us to get school. And then at the school, we would set our name in, and then they would send us to Hudson's department store, and that's where we get our Buster Brown shoes to go to school and not be raggedy. Little Orphan Annie, as I called us, But those were the days, and I enjoyed them. I really enjoyed them. And even now, I tell my kids, and they just can't believe that, Mama, what? They look at you like, what? You lived it like that? Yes, yeah. I said, I tell people, because it wasn't all grits and groceries. Eggs and poultry, that was very little on our tables at that time, And between off of Russell, we would go to the slaughterhouse. It's still there on Russell. We were clamming them big old ugly things, get the chillings out, get the feet, the pig everything about the pig. Now, guess what? They sell it to the people. We would steal it. I call it, but we were hungry, so we go at night and rob these things. When the man come to get it, wasn't nothing there for him. The whole area in there, we live by the slaughterhouse. And them big drums be there now. And they sell it to you now. The chitlins, they swift. I don't eat chitlins, pig feet and all that, because I had to clean them. Get the grit out the crop. That's what they mean. When I find out that's what I'm eating, that's it, Mom. I can't. Well, you don't eat. I said, well, I'm going to starve tonight because I can't do chitlins. But we sold that from Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. That's how she made the money for us, because wasn't that much money being made during the time that we were born and living in down there. And those are jobs. It was construction, if you was a construction worker. And then Dad sold bananas. If they remember, milk used to be the filler brush man, as they call him. He would come around. They would sell the milk and the juices, and he would leave 9 gallons of that glass. They didn't have plastic at the time, the glass, and we would wash them like spotless and set them back out in those crates. He said, why you need so much milk? And Granny would pay for the milk for us. And she worked for the rich. And that's how we got our little funds and money. And pork chops, that was a royalty. Grandma said, we haven't really? She didn't eat no meat. She was a vegetarian. Matter of fact, she didn't want us to eat it, but I became anemic. And you need your meat. People just don't know. Don't eat this, don't that. No, eat anything you want to eat. Because your body needs it. They don't eat this, no, eat anything. Just eat it diligently. Don't overeat, because anything you overeat, you'll die from it. But we was health nuts. Granny, she made us health nuts. My kids, no. Eat whatever you want to eat. You get fat, you just get fat. Learn how to take the fat off. Okay. If you see them, if you see them, they all bigger than me. They think I'm the kid, and they my family. They're my mother and father. But I relive every time when I tell them about my life. I never hated living, but when we moved out of Black Bottom, as they call it, when the freeway came through, we had to, at that time people didn't want kids at their home, because we wasn't that type of kid to destroy. And we was very well mannered, and you tell us to sit down, we sat down. You tell us to shut up, we shut up. Because we knew how our family was. They give you back in, you gonna shut up, and you gonna wear that hand to school. So they didn't play. So you was just respectful, everybody, to anybody, everybody. You was respectful, whether you knew them or not. And it's like we had to move, and we was there 15 years. In the year that the freeway started coming through at 999 Henry, everybody had to find somewhere to go. It was like instantly. We didn't know what was happening. We just knew they were working in the back of us, but you never know what they're doing. Farmcrest Bakery. Nobody knew. When I mentioned Farmcrest, what? I said it was on the corner of Russell, right behind us. That's where I worked. And we shoveled berries, blueberries, strawberries, it was apples, because they made, the bakery make their own. So we was in the basement, and you put them on a conveyor, and you put them in, and they'd be washed and stuff. And we would do that after school to help make money to give to my mom. We didn't give it to my dad, we gave it to my mom. It's because we know we're going to eat it, we give it to her. Men have a way of not saving money at that time, because it was like a struggle. It was a struggle. Black Bottom was a struggle. That's when they are trying to find out. And I'm just glad I'm living to tell my story, because it's like you lived it, but you don't want to relive it. But at that time when you lived in it, and you didn't want to become it and absorbed in it, but you were there. So you had to make the best of everything, So that's what we did. People like, you happy? Yep. Why you gonna say no? Where you going? People, you very happy? Very happy. And we used to shoot marbles, and that was our entertainment. We jumped rope and we shot marbles. And the boys got mad with me because I could shoot better than them. Yeah. You get the big ball, line it up, bust it, and you have a hole here, hole here. Anybody that's my age, you know, you shot marbles in the front yard because wasn't no grass. You had to sweep that yard before 6 o'clock. If you have parents like me, it better be clean, spotless. You put water out there and you sweep it so it won't be dusty. And now, if you watch when they tear down houses, what do? Put water on it. So it's like they took my idea without me even giving it to them. And it was a joy. You know, when I see them, I say, oh, I used to do that. I said, yeah, we didn't have no grass. Where we lived, there wasn't no grass nowhere. Them people had to be rich to have grass and fences, you know. And they said, oh my God. But we enjoyed ourselves in the bare yard. Wasn't a playground, it was a bare yard. And they put swings on it for us. So that's how we would get it. It was right across the street, and you had to, like, the street was like narrow, but you had to run across the street because the people would be flying up and down, and you get hit. There wasn't no stop signs, no stop lights and stuff. So, but we enjoyed it. You know, we just enjoyed life. It was stressful. We were stressed out. I was stressed out because there was a lot of us. But the other kids that had 4, 5, and 6 sisters and brothers, they went home. They didn't have nothing to do. We had to go home and start preparing for tomorrow. The clothes and the food. And I would make the meal for Mom and put it in the refrigerator. You didn't have no refrigerator. You had icebox. So I had to get coal for the house. Icebox, I had the little red wagon. I can't stand it now. Pour 50 pounds of ice on that little red wagon. And Granny bought that for us. And then you know we done went down to the man on the corner. On the corner, it's an alley there. Right at Hastings and Henry. Right there. He sold everything. The ice, the coal, the pops, the milk. When everything is closed, he was open. And they would know that there go them Sanders kids with that wagon. You would leave a trail. By the time you get home, it'd be in the air melted. It was so funny. I said, Lord have mercy, icebox. That's how you remember how you lived in the Black Bottom, iceboxes. And then guess what? I got one in the basement. If you want to take a picture before you leave, the icebox, and I got the rope, the old-fashioned washing machine that we had. I got those in the basement to connect with Black Bottom. That's what you use, the wringer. And you put the clothes in there. And my little brother, his hand got caught in there because he thought it was a joke. And the sludge hammer, everything, even when you unplug it, the hand just sticks and it just grind right there and it didn't stop. And I said, oh my God, I felt so sorry for him. He was a little bitty thing and his hand just rolled right on through there. But see, to have a leverage that it lift up on, but we caught it. But those was the good days. And when they said the good old days, you know.
And you started to mention that eventually your family had to leave. What was that process like?
Horrible. Daddy, we didn't know we had to move, but then they give you a certain amount of days, 90 days, 30 days. It's 30 days at that time because they want to really get that freeway finished. Now, they had made the freeway. I used to drive that freeway on my bike, me and my brother. When we leave our job, we would ride. Let's go ride. We go down there and then come back up. We would break our chain every time because it was just so hot. You know, the what you call it, the slate, the cement that they were using at that time wasn't like they use now. It had rocks and all that stuff. You bust your tires going down there, and you go down, and it was just fun at that time. And we didn't know we had to move within a certain time. Daddy didn't tell Granny, nor did he tell Mom. And it was 16 of us living at that time, and Mom was pregnant at that time. We had to move in a hurry. So he couldn't find nowhere that they would take kids. And at that time, it was hard to find homes with more bedrooms than you needed because it was all small areas. And to move from where you were, it was just devastating. So when we did move, they down there put us out, really, because he couldn't find nowhere. It was 16 living kids. And then when he found a place, we moved there. And I was going to Eastern High School on Mac. So he tried to get in the area where we were going to school, but I still had to catch a bus to Eastern High School. And wasn't enough space there. Mom and Dad didn't have a bedroom. Granny, the closet became her bedroom because she was the oldest. And Mom and Dad slept in the living room on the couch. I slept in the dining room on a little foldaway bed. And my little sister and brothers had the biggest room in there. And it was like 4 beds in there. And they were foldaway beds. And it's like, it was really hard because that's the only place he could find with 16 living kids, which is hard to look at 16. If you put 16 people together and say, what? Just anything 16 gathered, 16 dogs, whatever. That's a lot of people. And the man let us live there, and we were sad, happy. We didn't think it was like a fire hazard, because we had some decent to live. But it wasn't as big as where we moved from because those places was huge. So some of the furniture we had to leave, some we took, clothes we couldn't take. My clothes, we didn't have a closet for it. I had to make a rod across in the dining room to hang the clothes up. So it was just terrible. And then we wasn't there long because we moved in 57, we moved. And it was all like, wasn't even, we moved the beginning of that year, somewhere, if I can remember, February. We moved in the wintertime. And when we moved there, and it got so hot in the summer, and I was going to school, ready to graduate. I did all my little things I was 16, and I came out at 16 and a half, because I did all my little credits and stuff. And they said, well, you ready. Then you have to do job up training, they call it now, but you have to have that extra credit outside to show them that you can work and do stuff. So I lived on the east side, but on the west side to Cortland, helping, and they don't pay you. That's your credit for you to graduate. So I had 180 hours. I don't know how many, 160. Now they got to have 180 or more. So I graduated in 1960. My little sister and brothers, that day, I put in for a telephone because I needed the phone to call the jobs. And because they say you got to connect and make sure that you got the job before you catch a bus. They gave us bus tickets. And I was assigned to a doctor, my counselor. She said, you got a doctor, and his wife is pregnant. So they live off of Cortland on the west side. So, oh my God, why I got to go? See, that's the stipulation of, if you're on the east side and you get to the west side on time, then that's in your court. Your counsel said, well, they make their job and this and that. So I never had a problem getting a job because that was on my report. Long story short, I had to have a phone because I would go across the street to use a lady phone. I said, I'm so sorry. She said, oh my God. She said, y'all live where you live? She said, well, them all your sisters and brothers? Yes, every one of them. Really, you sure y'all ain't could collect? I said, lady, look at my face and read my lips. Those are my sisters and brothers. She said, that's a lot of kids. And the first thing come out of her mouth, where were you born? They were born here. Really? Somebody had as many kids here? Yes, I'm born down south, but all of them was born here. And she said, well, that place is not. I said, I know. Please don't remind me. And I said, I'm going to try to get a phone in when I get my little job. She said, don't worry about it. And she never said that wasn't fit for you to put a phone up there. So when I put in for the phone, at that time was my bell. And it turned, now it's AT&T or whatever. And it was Michigan Bell. And when I put in for the phone, I had the fire chief of Detroit to come out, and I could not get a phone in that house. He said, this is a matchbox. He said, I want to talk to your daddy. He said, what made him get this place? Sir, he said, how many people live here? I said, 16 kids and 3 adults. He said, oh my God. He said, no. And he did some words and stuff. I said, sir, please. Wow, what's wrong? He said, this is not fit for nobody to live in. I said, well, it's the only place he could get. He could have got something better. He could have went to his worker. I know you got a worker. I said, I don't know what's happening, sir. I don't get into that. That's my mother and father's business. Because at that time, you mind your own business and you stay in a child's place. He said, I understand that, but how old are you? I said, I'm 16. He said, you should know a little bit more than you do. I said, well, if you knew my parents, you don't know nothing. You talk to them and they will tell you. He said, you were born down south. I said, yes, I was. He said, yeah. Fat mouth get hit. He knew. I said, well, I'm glad you understand where I'm coming from, sir. He said, I won't put pressure on you. He said, but I want him to really call me because if there's 16 kids up in here, somebody going to die. I said, and I asked him, don't say that. And I did lose 6 sisters and brothers in that place. The babies. And I think about them all the time. God. Oh. And I just remember what he said. And he didn't take heed to it. And I lost the babies, 6 months to 6 years old. They just grabbed him. And I said he could have found something better if he had went through his social worker. And that's when I found out. He could have, they would have put us on a place. And at that time it was Hunt Street, which was the main police station. And I said, oh my God. And from then on, we got help from Del Rio, Judge Del Rio. And Diggs, people don't even know Congressman Diggs now. But we had life insurance with him. We didn't know, but Mama had life insurance with the kids. And they made her put it on, which was social service, as they call it. You got to have this, and they wanted to finish burying them. And Diggs said, no. Miss Barksdale, people don't know about her. She worked for Congressman Diggs. And she made them over like clay dolls. And anybody want to know is that Detroit, the library on Woodward. And it's in microfiche now because it's so long. It's over 60 years. They put it on microfiche. You go in there. And it's the Sanders family, 1957, November the 17th. And it's like, it was so gorgeous. You didn't know they was burnt up. And she made them over to little clay doll. And they had all their own cats. You'll see all of that. They had, oh God. And it's just like the end of the kids. And then we had to start from, and all of them, my brothers started dying 2 years, two a year, dying. And it's like, oh my God, Mama, what's wrong? They just started dying. And she said, if I didn't have all these kids, then I wouldn't have no kids. I said, don't say that. Because all these kids, we're suffering. We suffered. So what are you talking about? And it's like, oh boy, I didn't want to cry. I didn't want to cry, but it make it, I didn't want to cry. Because that part, it's been over 60 years, but you still think about it.
Right.
You took care of these kids.
Right, that's hard. That's something that you really can't
Forgive
ever
me
forget.
for crying,
Oh, you don't have to apologize at all.
Yeah, so it's like I tried to hold it. That's when I don't talk about it. But they was helpless. And that's what gets me. But it's there. And from there, we lived pretty decent on 453 East Vernon Highway. Didn't know that was a body holding place for the funeral home. And when we would say, we get up and say, did you see something? No. Did you? No. I don't want to see nothing up in here. Stop clowning. My brothers then were funny, you know, they were real funny, I tell you. Don't play. And Mr. Del Rio, I love him today if he's still living. He helped us get that place on 453 Vernon Highway. Guess what? The freeway is run through there. And he told my dad, he said, I'm giving you this. You ain't got to pay nothing. He said, Jeffries is coming through. They got to pay you for this building. He said, you don't never have to be closed in. It was huge. And he said, all you got to do is pay taxes. This lot is yours, you know. And that was the first time that we felt free. Everybody had their own bedroom. And my grandma, because we moved, my auntie, she lived on the north end, where Dave Bean's place is now. And they dead and gone, but they lived on the north end. And we were with her. Just imagine all the kids that was left was with her in this one little room. And we had to stay in that room. And when Mr. Del Rio came, he said, oh my God. He said, oh, no. So that was his building. And he sold it. He gave it to Dad. He didn't sell it. And he said, I want you to stay here and get yourself together. And we did. And there come the freeway again. You got to move again. And that's when we got on Short Monroe, where the graveyard is, and you right in front of the graveyard. Oh my Jesus. That was, I said, I got to get out of here. I said, if it ain't the freeways moving us, you looking at dead people being buried. And it's like, I said, man, wherever we move, it's freeways coming through. And the Jeffries, 453 Vernon Highway, they went all the way around everything else, but they took our house. I said, my God, Lord, what you trying to tell us? Don't live on the freeways. Don't live in the path of the freeways got to be built. And when I go down, hit that Jeffries, and I look, I said, I used to still live right there, 453 Vernon Highway, between Bobian and Brush. And my daddy never listened to people. He was a hard, I said, he got a thick skull. And that's where Alabama, Mississippi people is. You can't tell them nothing, because they know so much, they don't know nothing. And he said, man, you hard-headed. And he tells my brothers, you hard-headed. No. They're you, Daddy. You're hard-headed. That's the second time that we have been where freeways are, and the man say, take heed, and you don't listen. And then when the kids got burnt up, you didn't listen. When did you gonna listen? Well, baby girl, you know how they talk down, baby girl. They don't know everything. No, they don't. But you don't know nothing. If you know it, it's up here, and you ain't sharing it. But that Jeffrey came through. I said, not again. I said, we got to move again. And now it was 10 of us left, because 6 got burnt up in the fire. Now there's 10 kids left. Where are we going, Daddy? And what happened? You didn't have to pay for this. This is gorgeous. I mean, it's beautiful. And we lived it right off of Vernon Highway, between Brush and... I said, so what's the problem? Thick-headed. And I said, because he could have made some money off that building, because Del Rio told me, he said, I got it fixed where something happened. He said, the freeway will come to... He don't know nothing. I said, oh my God, not again, Daddy. And that's when we moved, where we could find a place. He became the person that fixed these places up and rent them out for the guy. And it was 3 of them right there where they got a firehouse there now. I was so glad when I got married, they were still living there. I said, I'm marrying out of this house. I'm like the little baby. I'm out of here. And I married in Mama's home. And it was beautiful. I didn't have a church wedding. I didn't want one. And I had over 500 people at Rotundity, and then they was bringing food and gifts and everything. I said, oh my God. I said, I only invited 50 people. Where all these double O's come, you know? And Grandma said, well, they want to know where you married. My auntie had a broke leg, and she got a cab to come to find out who I was marrying, what I was marrying. I said, oh my God, Auntie, you're here. And she have never went nowhere but to church and back home. And Uncle Richard, he said, when he called, he said, your auntie is on her way. Look out for her. I said, on her way where? I said, the wedding is over. He said, said, she coming.
Still coming.
Coming. And she came that night, and we had the reception and stuff. She said, where's that man that married my niece? You know, because they Southern people. He said, where my nephew? And he looked at it, he said, okay, you better take care of her. Don't put your hands on her and love her. Not to death, but to life. And that's where I get it from. When you tell people, I love you to death, I say, oh, no, no, too much. No, just say, I love you. Don't add to it. If you do, just say, love you to life. That keeps me breathing. And they look at me and say, I said, I didn't have too much death around me for people to say that, love you to death. All of them is dead. They said, oh, I get it. I say, yeah. Yeah, love you to death, and they die. No, love me to life, you know. And I got married. My husband waited 4 years for me. I didn't want to marry nobody. I was going to the Army, and at that time, I didn't know the women. And Sam, he didn't want them women to know. And we're learning now that what was happening in the Army. We're learning it now. And my brother told my mother, don't let her go to that. Because they're not just nurses. And he was in the Army. My oldest brother was in the Army. He said, I don't want her in that, Mama. And I said, well, man, what? He said, you won't be a wax like they got them now, marching in white uniforms. No, sis. Please don't go. Because when you get high school, they come into high school and you sign up. And that's why I signed up. Because I wanted to get away from my family. It was too many. I wanted to be free. Freedom. But it's like the wax. He said, you won't be that, sis. I said, okay. So Mom said, well, she stopped it. She stopped me from going in. And then when I saw him, it wasn't my husband at the time. He claimed me. They said, you see it, you claimed it. That's my wife, my future wife. No, I'm not. What? No, I'm not. Me and my sister would look at each other. I said, oh my God, these men. She said, sis. And then when God helped me. I did not know how my husband was when I married him. He didn't have no person from his family. Didn't know he had been married before. Never knew whatever. He knew about me, but I didn't know about him. And then when I found out I was being born when he was in the Army, I saw it. And I was just telling the man, as if you wait 4 years, then I'll marry you. Because my grandmother, your word is your bond. And when he came back and he said, where's my wife? And he told me, I'm going back to Florida with that suitcase with rocks in it. When I got here, I wanted to see that rocks, and I went in the basement. I wanted to see that suitcase. He had rocks in that suitcase. It was like heavy. And he said, I'm going back. I can't get my wife out of here and marry her. He said, I love her. She just don't know. And then when Grandma came down, she said, she's going to marry you, sir. She's going to marry you, sir. I said, I looked at my grandma and said, you don't know that. He said, oh, she's going to marry you. Her word is her bond. And he waited until I come out, because I was in the doing a socialist degree. So when I come out, he said, your word is your bond. She kept saying that, your word is your bond. Oh, lady, I get it. So when I turned 19, that's when he married, and I married it in the home, my mother's home. I didn't want no wedding and all that, because I wasn't supposed to get married. I wanted to be free. Because I had been tied down all my life with my sisters and brothers, so I just wanted to be free. Live the life of Riley. As they say, I could be broke and still live like Riley. Just free, no responsibilities. But I don't regret.
You started to talk about some of the consequences of your family having to leave Black Bottom.
Yes.
Were there other ones that you can think of, or even observing neighbors around you? Like, how were people responding? How were they impacted?
We all looked at each other. We never saw each other again. They moved off of Henry. And you move in different spots. Now, one lady, Mrs. Battles, when I married my husband, she lived right across the street. And she kept telling him, I know that little girl. I ain't no little girl, I'm married. And Miss Jones, she said, she could sew her head off. I said, who is this lady? And I looked and said, oh my God. We all lived together, but we separated. And we never knew the kids. I never saw them anymore. They never saw us. And then when you meet them in the downtown or in the stores and stuff, you look and say, oh my God, where you stay? Did you get married? Yeah. Well, how are you living? They said, but you haven't changed. I said, well, why should I be changed? They said, you are not getting older. And I knew then what they were saying. I said, well, it's what you do to your body that makes you the way you are. I said, oh boy. He said, you don't do none of the other nasty stuff. That's what they call it. I said, no. You don't do the drinking, the smoking, and the other. No, because this body is not yours. It's the Lord's. He said, there you go with that stuff. Most of them went, because we was church people. We stayed in church. And I said, oh my God. I said, that's why. I said, and then when they see me now, I said, this teeth is missing because of it had to come out. And I said, I always wanted beautiful, immaculate. And that's when I try not to laugh and stuff. And when I talk, I try to hide it, until I get my bridge in. Them things cost money, $600. And I didn't have the six, because when you retire and your husband is gone, I was in the same boat, raising my babies by myself. Money goes where you don't think it's supposed to go. You need this, but you're not quite as bad as you were when you were living with your family, but you got kids now that need what you need. Teeth, clean, dentists, doctors, shots. So you learn. Yeah, and that way they was. I knew a lot of the kids that I was raised with that was gonna go down a how they call it, a mole hole or a rat hole, because we lived with no food and stuff like that, but we were structured. They structured us, whereas that you don't have to live like this. We can't afford, so why are you having us? That's why I used to ask my daddy, why are you having us so you can't afford it? There you go with that mouth. I said, okay. Stay in a kid's place. That's what they always say. I said, okay, Daddy. I'm just living to get old, I tell you something. And when I got married, I stood toe to toe with my daddy. He was 6'3". I said, you had all these kids for what? We were little slaves. Toothpaste, toothbrush. See, people just don't understand. Black bottom kids, we were more structured than the kids that's free and have everything. You learn how to. I can take a piece of bread like Christ did, and all of us can eat off of that one piece of bread. Crackling bread. What is crackling? That's the part of the skin of the hog. That'll break your teeth. And you cook it with the bread, and if you eat that and that, you get a filling on crackling. They don't even sell crackling anymore because it's like, you got to be really strict with that. Yeah, you just can't go eat that. That stuff has to be prepared differently, and it's like,
you gotta take your time with it.
Oh my God. It's okay. And you thinking the crackling come out, your teeth come out. So it's like, you just can't eat that. Because we had to put that in the cornbread. Crackling cornbread. And people now, crackling, what the heck? That's the skin of the hog. And the skin, they fried, you have to deep fry. You can make skin, and you just love it. Because it's the skin, and you fry it, and it becomes, and now they trying to not to sell it, but it's delicious. You never get through chewing it because it's air. It's fun. It was fun. That's all we used to go to the church, and the guy that made it, he would give it to us free. And now they sell it. We would go across the alley, and He have our little box ready, and we just all of us get about 2 or 3 of them out of there. It was so much fun. And then you come back home to Black Bottom, you know, and we walk to oh my goodness, choir rehearsal. People don't even know what BYPU is. That's they call it Bring Your Own Bottle. It's the Bible class. You Bible class. Y'all was bringing your own bottle when you was young. I said, oh my goodness, y'all are silly. No, that was BYPU. You go to Sunday school. As I said, church was Black Bottom. That's what you did. And you went, you wore a shoe and a boot, but you was going out of there. Pants with rope, but you was going to church. When my brothers them got out of Black Bottom, baby, they was like, oh, one sung with the Capitals, you know, they all dead now, but everybody had to, anybody that was like that, we had to create a space for ourselves, and we lived, we sung. You go to church and you stand out there and you do a quartet, you harmonize. You need no music. You just do it. And on Saturdays, you create. I couldn't do anything because I was in the bathtub wiping baby diapers. The blue jeans, I hate blue jeans today. I don't even own a pair of blue jeans. And I could have strangled my godson's neck, but it was his mother. She called herself Getting Me Back. Your godmother would love blue jeans. When I got them blue jeans that Christmas, I said, no, he didn't. Mine's got Bucky. And the kids said, oh, them is pretty, Mama. Gloria Vanderbilt. I don't wear, do you see me wear blue jeans? They said, no, Mama, but those are so pretty. Will you see me with it? Nope, they're going to be hanging in that closet. He knew I don't wear no blue. She knew I didn't wear blue jeans. But they bought them, you know. I want to see your godmama because she never saw me. She's dead now, you know, but she never saw me wear blue jeans. So, and I wore them one time for him to see me. And that was his mother was sick, and I went to see her. She had lupus. I didn't know what lupus was at that time, but it's a blood cancer. Yeah, and she inherited that from her mother. Yeah, she had 3 kids, and it was just they lived it there too, you know. So we all went to the same church, and we just hung with each other, you know. And the kids that was from Black Bottom, I'm telling you, they like the battles. I remember all of them, and you would see them when you go in the hospital. That's when you say, "This where you work at?" Oh my goodness! But you got a high school diploma. Don't go there, Miss Jenkins, because they learned my last name. Now, don't go there, Miss Jenkins. I said, listen, you was at the Army. You went to the Army. You should have been in school. Then you wouldn't be down here. You'd be a professor. Because at that time, they teach you. Those teachers actually, they loved their job, so they taught you, you know. And to grow up to know that board school that Diana Ross had adopted that school, she gave them $60,000 to redo that school. That it still exists. The swimming pool's still there, and Mr. and Mrs. Sanders, which they thought was my mother and father, was the people that ran the gym. And it was like, you get A's in swimming because I work for it. You got to swim. They give you tests, and I even now I can't swim because of I'm allergic to bleach. Because that's what they used to pour it in there. And then you get out, you can't go to your next class because your eyes is looking like this, red. And BBs in them. And you be, and they lead you to your next class. They said, so I'm allergic to bleach. And I say, I guess so. They will pour it in there for them kids. Because Black Bottom kids didn't like taking baths. So they would fill the pool full of bleach, and you can smell it when you get in there. It's just awful. It was just awful. But I never regret. And what I learned then, I use it now. How to live, how to prepare. Because when we have a blackout, I have my candles, the little fake stuff. And then I know how to cook on I call them hiking stoves.
The burners?
The burners, yeah. The one you put and that stuff is dangerous. It's a certain way that you use it, and you don't turn it high because it'll explode. And that's what a lot of people are doing now when lose their facilities. They use it, but they don't know how to use it. You got to use it. And my thing was, we were so poor, we lived it like Abraham Lincoln. When I learned about Abraham Lincoln, the only thing I don't have is them wooden teeth. But I had to clean globes every before 6 o'clock when my daddy get home. We used those, and that was no lights and no gas, and we had to clean. And you did your homework about it. You sit it there and bring it up high. If you do it too high, the smoke, then you lower it and you cut it off the wick. And people, they just take for granted. I say, I know how to survive. That's what you learn at the Black Bottom, how to survive in hard times, how to eat, how to save stuff. And when we had our blackout here in the US of A, for them 5 days, people thought I had lights because it was so bright up in here. But I knew how to do, we had the gas, so I cooked up everything out the refrigerator so it wouldn't spoil. And then I had to use all of the picnic things. I had the ice in one, and we would go up there, and they was charging us, $20 for a bag of ice. It was awful. That was worse than living in Black Bottom. I said, you crazy? $20 for a bag of ice that only cost $1.25? But they was getting us, they was sucking us in. But I would get it, put my milk in there and my butter and the cheese and stuff. That was the least one that would be open. The other one was for the food, the little plastic ones, you know. So I enjoyed it, and never regret living and coming out the Black Bottom. But you enjoy coming out because your memories. I'm just hate I don't have the pictures to show, because when the house caught a fire, everything burnt up.
Mm-hmm. So. How do you think present day Black Detroiters are impacted by the destruction today?
Unless they hear from us, they won't be impacted. Because this is like change, a new era for them. So they can't imagine people living the way they said we were living. They can't imagine that. And we were living just like if they would go through slave time. We were just a step above them in Black Bottom because of street lights. It was a lot of murdering and killing in Black Bottom. The cops was very rare, and if you know, during the time when we lived in Black Bottom, was the Big Four. That was the baddest cops in Detroit, the Big Four. You didn't mess with them. And prostitution was high at that time, and they talk about Hotel 8 and all them, you know, or Haston. People lived over because the living quarters was so limited. People lived over the stores, and they would go home and lock up at night, but they would rent upstairs. Now they're just not coming back to that. The owners live upstairs over their stores to protect them, because the looting during the riots and stuff, that was something. And I was living here then, so I've been here 63 years in this area, in that whole Gratiot. Our bakeries was owned by the Black people, and just like when you was asking me who owned Haston, that was all Black owned, because that was Black Bottom. And the barbershops is where you go and you talk, and the Black men can let off steam, because they have feelings too. And then that's how they learn how to play checkers, chess, and if you know how to play chess, you're a brainy Black man. You brainy, because that was not a Black man's thing, not chess, checkers. Because I can play checkers now instead. My brother was, and my dad, he was, if I had all of that, I could show the memoirs that he won in Chicago when it was a white guy. He was in the barbershop, and he came in, and you know, they talk about a lot in there. And then nobody was allowed in the back downstairs where the thing go around like this. And what really make me love it and enjoy it now, Cedric Entertainer, all them made that barbershop to show you how it was in Black Bottom. That's the way Black Bottom was. That's the real Black Bottom. They're showing people If they look at that, they can tell how you lived, and you lived it happy. Even though you was in poverty, but you lived happy. No grass, no flowers. That's when you see them riding, because I love my flowers and my greenery. Because they didn't have when I was young, but I got it now. And grass everywhere out there. Oh no. I was throwing grass seeds, and I could become, and you do this. So that's how I became allergic to my grass seeds, because bear. Only thing bear I want to see is that concrete. My kids didn't have to sweep, and yard. I just stopped doing my yard 2 years ago when I got hit on that head. They don't want me to go out there and do, because when they learn from the doctors, that stuff got to stop. I cut my own grass, do my own hedges. I just enjoyed it. And all the people look and say, that lady, and they be mad at their wife. You didn't have what I got. She don't have no hedges to cut. She ain't got no grass. I couldn't stand that. But now, if you now ain't but 4 houses living on this block, grass everywhere. But you could tell where the kids lived. They didn't know kids lived here, because I kept grass. I didn't know that's what they do when in Black Bottom. That kid lived there, and the whole block was bare until you got to the corner where the elderly people lived, and they had the grass and the hedges. Yeah. Oh well. Yeah. They worked to get that. That was a homeowner. Because in that area you didn't own nothing. It was all white owned. And then when you got to Haston, on one side was all black, and on that side from Woolworth on down, and Boxdale, it had everything in there. Ice cream. You go in there, you get they had the school books. Woolworth, they had them where they was only 2 cents for the folders, and then you can put the pre-folders there, you pull them out. You see that now it's wired and everything, right? But that time, it's just you come home with all you ain't paid but what, $3, and you got 10 books and pencils. They give you the pencils when you go out the door. They give us a box of free pencils. It was just so much fun. Black Bottom was more like family oriented, like African live. If you do something, I'm gonna tell you, Miss Sanders, please don't tell. And then them times you come home with a note on you, you better not move it. That was that era, and I never regret living that. But I want to get above that. You don't never hate where you come from, but you look back and you said, now, Lord, thank you for bringing me over that bridge, because it was rough. If I had to live like that now, and my kids, these kids could not survive that. Because just like when we had the blackout, they couldn't survive that. They was coming over here. Can we get a candle? No. When they said, look for a rainy day, this is the rainy day. Don't look for rain. Be prepared. And that thing was loaded with candles and stuff. My kids said, Mama, I said, don't get my candles out. Because the next fall, then I'm going to have to be going borrow something. That's unfair to me to replace that stuff, and they're not, it's good to be neighborly, but that's too neighborly. Yeah. And I stopped loaning salt when I learned what salt does. They said, give them the whole box. Grandma said, don't loan no salt out. I said, why? Just don't loan salt. Just give the whole box. And it was just, in my hand, I look at my daughter's hands, they pretty, and I look at mine, I said, well, this is old rubberboard. Rubberboard hands. They don't know about no rubberboards. And the kids, I said, well, you know what? If you want to live like Abraham Lincoln and them, it ain't joy. You light a candle at night, then you gotta put it out because you don't want a fire, and the very thing I feared happened, but it didn't happen with the kerosene light. It happened with electric. They called it a flash fire. Went all the way through. You could see the holes go through up there. You look up and say, look at that mustang. Oh, them. I said, Mom, that's it. You see the whole wiring, and that's what the man was talking about, the hobnobs. It just burned straight through. And when she walk around and looking, so she was in a coma. So I had to do everything. So, she 2 weeks in. Then when we had the funeral, Russell Street Baptist, It was over 500 people. 5,000 people. Rotunda, you thought you was looking at a president had died. And they was coming to see how these 6 kids are going to be buried. And they said, man, they had all their own little caskets. And then my mother, when they brought her in, the doctor and the nurses had to stay with her. They said, oh my God. They would not let her move. They brought them to her. It was like so hard. Mm-hmm. But it happened. And that's what I got from the Black Bottom, moving from there to there. Mm-hmm. They'd be still living at that freeway that came through. We'd all be together. But they said, well, how you know that? Because we wouldn't have been able to move. We didn't have to move. Oh. Mm-hmm. They didn't have the joy of living. That's when I enjoy life now, because when you see somebody die at 6 months and 6 years, they didn't live. But you can't blame God for that. You know, the relatives that stink, and they weren't thinking. You know, he could have, that pride, he had pride. Cause Mama would always go and do they call it non-settlement. That's what we was on. Because everybody, you couldn't talk about them because all of you was on the same page. You know, this one ain't rich, that ain't rich. We all was poor there. And me and my brother was lucky to get to because they wouldn't hire anybody at the Farm Crest Bakery. They didn't want them kids up in there because they was like, they figured we would steal and stuff because we were poor. And they hired me and my brother. And they told my dad, he said, well, these kids don't touch nothing when they come in there, because we would go in and get our pies and stuff. And me and my brother, we would treat the family because we would sell the newspapers and stuff. And Daddy, I said, Mom, I'm going to get us, we're going to have dessert. She said, girl, that's up to our mama. We work. This is our joy and our payment for the kids. And I said, you don't even stress it. And me and my brother, we were like twins. They thought we were twins. And he's gone now, though. But what you do for life, in life, it backfires on you. And I always tell them, I said, be a leader. Don't follow nobody. Be yourself. Says you can say that. You just say, I said, I catch heck every day going to school. But that don't bother me. Because I'm independent and I'll knock them down. I'm not going to do no killing because jail ain't for me. I can't live in jail. And he's, well, sis, you just don't understand. They pressure you in there. No. We come from a family that you don't take pressure from nobody. You take pressure from them, you know. And that's where we lived in Black Bottom. Everybody took care of everybody. And now, they step back and film it. Instead of calling 911, what you filming? Say these people. They don't have the love. That's the difference between them. When you ask what the difference is, Black Bottom, it was more love. We didn't have nothing, but it was love. Now these people got everything, and it's no caring. I don't want to say the wrong stuff, but it's the dog eat dog. That's the way I put it, dog eat dog. If you don't have it, I'm sorry. You got a chance to get it. That's the way they live. And I said, oh my goodness. And I tell my kids, I said, don't be a follower, be a leader. So I raised them. I raised them all. They all graduated. They got degrees. Whatever they do, is they educated. You know, my daughter was the oldest one. Was co-reporter. She retired. My son, he was a foreman at the factory. I said, I don't care what it is, be good at it. Then the dental technician. The third oldest, she works. She's a candlewood switch. They all in places where they represent themselves. I said, just be yourself. Just be yourself. Don't try to follow the Joneses. And I said, your last name ain't Jones, it's Sanders. He said, okay, Mama, be a Sanders. I said, yes.
I love that.
Jenkins, Jenkins or Sanders, whichever one you want, you got a choice. But I can use Sanders, but you can't because you got your dad's name. So, we can't use Sanders. I said, if you want to change your name, go downtown. It's $25, and it may be more than that now. But yeah, you can change your name, but we want to be. No, you don't. You honor your daddy. I have one son, And I said, and I told him, I said, he had COVID-19. I said, oh Lord, no, please. He's the only Jenkins that can carry my husband's name on. The rest of them, the girls can get married, and it changes. I said, so, and that stuff, I don't wish that on nobody. Because he was in the hospital, I couldn't go see him. And his fiance was the one that was feeding me back. She hooked up her phone to the room. And she would go, when the doctor go in there, okay, what do you need? What you in there now for? You know, she stayed on him for him to come out of there. He was in there 3 solid months or more. Mm-hmm. And when he came home, these big oxygen tanks came home with him. I said, oh my God, he said, Mommy, you can't come and see me. So I didn't see my son. So my son about 5, 6 months. Mm-hmm. And when I did see him, he said, he had his mask. I keep my mask. And now it's still here. I said, it's not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere. It lit up. And they say now you gotta, cause it's a variant now, and it changes, you know. So I just when we talk black bottom, this reason I don't like talking about it, cause the move that we had to make, we lost family members for moving, you know. So, but joy in the morning, joy bells.
And so, you know, the 375 project is happening, and they're expecting that 30 acres of land will be available. What do you think could be on that land as a way of repairing the harm that was done through, you know, the displacement of so many families?
Well, they should pay the people that they had to move. That's the way I look at it. Especially when we are all still living, you know, the ones that are still living. And I don't say they're... siblings should get it because they're not getting it. That would be unfair. But the ones that's living, you do what you want to do, but give the ones that's still living that witness this. People lost family members moving, you know, and we just figured if you had stayed there, that was just family, you know. We didn't have nothing, but we enjoyed living, you know, the kids. We were like, I always said alfalfa and stymie. And what's the little girl name? The little black girl that's in the Little Rascals.
I can't.
Thelma, what's her name? What's her name? She had her pigtails all over. That's where we were in the black bomb. We had the little pigtails all over our head. These little barred. That was the fun days. And respiration should go to the ones that's still living, that have been there, seen it. It's okay what you're doing, but my thing is this: you departed a world of people that didn't have nowhere to go, because it was spontaneously. You got to move now, and it ain't like any project, big project. You got a certain time to get out of there anyway. And for me to move in here, I'm looking at I-94. I said, wow, all this connected into those freeways. And me moving from, and I ride down Midbury to Henry. I said, my God, you right in this area, Russell, and to ride this far down, we didn't know how far we were riding down on this freeway. And to live next to it, you know, it just, and then the people don't know how they get the grave sites. People are just misplaced. When they want land, they come get it. You don't have no choice. All these grave sites, people lived it there. And it's, what? Yeah. All these graves, there was houses in here, you know, and when they want an area, then, and especially when it goes to sinking, and you have a lot of houses that's got to be replaced and people don't have them, they come in, they don't buy them out. They just let them rot out and move out, and then they come and clean that land and use it for whatever they want to use it. And that's the way it is now. If you look around, when you go in certain areas, in the miles areas, you look at the houses, and then there's one person that'll come out on the porch and say, oh my God, they're still living in here. They wait till everything rot. Then they come through and sweep it out and put all new houses. They don't want to give you the upkeep of whatever to keep you here. They rather buy you out. and then I can go and do it because I got to go around you. And I tell people, if they never knew nothing else, watch Batteries Included with Jessica Lange. If they look at that, they will understand how the world works, because we can talk it. That little bitty, say this is it, that was a restaurant. I don't know if you've seen it or not, with Jessica Lange with Batteries Not Included.
Mm-mm.
Google it or rent it. And the little restaurant, all these big towers came up around her because she had aliens helping her fight to hold her little restaurant. And at the end of the movie, I mean, the fight was just between the little restaurant and the aliens. But then at the end of the picture, they brought it all the way back, the camera. And then you look and see, oh my God, the skyscrapers and stuff. And this little bitty restaurant is still sitting there. And everybody traveling to it to eat. And that's the way the world is now. It haven't changed. And every movie they make has a meaning to me. Because when you lived in Black Bottom, you didn't have all this here stuff, you know. And I keep going back to that because we didn't have the playgrounds that the kids can go to, and the basketball. Your basketball was made out of a milk crate, plastic milk crate. You cut the bottom out, you nail it up to the tree in the backyard, and then you play basketball. And you go, oh my God. Okay.
Well, that makes me think about, you mentioned the like cash payment, but in terms of the land, we know
Yes.
something would be on the land. What could be there as something that could benefit Black Detroiters?
Something that they can use, not to sit there, no monuments. We got enough of them. A building that could be used, and if they can put all the pictures in, if they can got the pictures from the Black Bottom, to put them on the wall so the people can, the younger generation can walk through there and see how their ancestors was living, which is now in this future, and they'll be able to look and see how Black Bottom really was, if we can get those pictures back. And it's a lot of them. If we go to the library, you can get them, and I figure blow them up so the kids can see them and make them. It don't have to be a museum. It can just be a regular home like mine, and like they did Motown, that regular house, and made it into a singing place for people. You know, they could have built a place, but he didn't want that. He wanted to be original, so that would be original. Original house with all these pictures in it, and you representing the people. Just like when they got Abraham Lincoln's house and set it out there, that's his house, you know. So that's original. That's how you get the originality of stuff. Use what these people had, and that's the way I look at it. Restitution, yeah, okay. You pay us the money, it's fine, but you need something to represent that can be used, and they can go. They can have like sewing classes for girls, cooking for boys. Men need to know how to cook too. That's mean the chefs, all the chefs. I don't call color, but they all cook, and they all got their own cooking stuff after their name, so the kids can grow up and be that too. That's the way I look at it. Make is useful, and not to just sit there and look at it and walk through like a museum. No, make it useful. They'll be able to use, like, who use iron skillets now? Nobody. But you can have a stove, old-fashioned stove that we used to, and have the iron skillets in the pots. And then you see what your mother's mother went through trying to cook in this thing, how heavy it is. And that's the joy. You'll be able to live it, see it, and live it. That's the joy. Because I know, I mean, people my age, these people is not going to be able to handle no iron skillet or the big old pot belly stove and the pots and stuff. So that's the joy that I look at. No, you ain't got to put you can put a fake stove in there for them to look at to see how we cooked when we were young. And that thing, you put that on the mood, I put the coal in there, put it back, jug it up. You know, I just got rid of, when my husband died, I just got rid of my coal furnace. I still got coal in the basement, and he's been gone over 50 years. Ashes. Everybody on this block would come to us for ashes because the car got what? Stuck in the snow. I said, so modern, but I'm old fashioned. I told my husband, I said, boy, I didn't marry you to shovel coal in the basement. We need gas. And when he died, with the new clean air, didn't they send me a letter stating I had to get get rid of the coal stove for the air going? But they don't know. If you don't know science, you'll change. Change is good, but some you don't supposed to change. That's the ozone. When everybody had coal stoves, that air kept the ozone, and now it's dying because it fed off of the heat, like the stacks and stuff. And they don't understand. But you're trying to change the scientists. The Lord made them scientists for a reason, for us. Everybody can't be everything. And the steamships is okay, but it's not putting nothing in the air. So you're going to have then you're sending people out into space where we're not supposed to be. They don't know. Astronauts have to, we don't see it, but they have to circle the earth before they can go out. Go figure. We ain't supposed to be out there. And it's okay, but now look what's happening. It's a lot of stuff going on. What? Because we got that satellite. All you got to do is turn it the way you want it.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned a museum. What do you think is most important for future generations to remember about Black Bottom?
Like I said, it shouldn't be something that just sit there and they walk in and see it. It should be useful. Use it so they can love it and enjoy it. Because just these chairs, I don't use these chairs until on a Sunday, give a dinner, invite all my family over. Come on, let's eat. These are chairs, but other than that, they're sitting here. I'm dusting them, cleaning the table. That's a waste. So it should be used. We got enough stuff that sits and walk into, not monuments, statues sitting there. What is it for? What does it mean? It's no meaning to that. Okay, he was there. Okay, or make it useful. Take that money. Like I said, they can if they can find an old house, like they did Abraham Lincoln's house, move it on that land, fix it up so they won't fall through it, and have electric lights and stuff, but let them see what it was and how we lived in Black Bottom. It wasn't easy. No money, the little stores. Now, we went, they took us to, I don't know if the schools still do it or not, but they had the big museum and they had the small museum, the children's museum, the pebble rocks. Now kids, they only saw that when they went to the museum. So when they come out of that in the basement, the pebbles, then they went on Jefferson, that old, they call it the old country type. You can't walk on pebbles. You can't drive on. These people live down there, but they wouldn't allow them to change the pebbles out. They had to park on Jefferson, and then you sliding down. You needed what you call them things, skis, to go down that pebble road. I don't know if they're pebble over there now or not, but years they call it history. Okay, but you don't want that type of history that you can't use it and it's not vitable. Okay, you sit there and watch it. And we go down there, and the candy was real. The people weren't as big as, they call us the atom world, because you see the people in the little windows when you go to the children's museum. The father and the mothers look like the kids, and that's the daddy, because they had to put down there the father, the mother. Now they made them the kids, them the babies. But that's what size they were until the atom bomb was exploded on Earth. People just don't know. That's when I became a scientist in terms of to know the meaning of science. And I tell kids, I said, whatever you be good at it. Learn it and know it. And that's when they was talking about, when I go to these meetings, I don't go to prosperous from them. I go because I can learn something. At 82, I'm still learning. Who knew about respiration? Is it respiration?
Reparation.
Reparation. Who knew about that? And that it was happening because it's behind doors. So when it really came to life and they brought it, I said, oh my God, I lived in Black Bottom. And my daughter looked at me and said, Mama, what? That was my daughter with me. That was the second oldest. She's 60. She's 62. She said, Black Bottom. What is a Black Bottom? I said, well, we'll go to the library or you can Google it. She said, there you go with the Google. I said, if you ever want to know something, Google don't even sell encyclopedias anymore. Google is the modern encyclopedia. I got 3 sets of encyclopedias in the basement. Those things was $800. And when my kids was in school, they were devastating. Upstairs, I turned the gas off, left the lights on, and then I put the books, and each one of them had their own little shelf up there. I took all the dishes out and stuff. And they said, Mama, you just think all the time. Do you ever stop? No. And then when they come now, okay, what you got new, lady? Nothing. I just built from scratch up. Take it in the backyard. Use painted. They always say other people junk is the wealth. One man's junk is another man's wealth. And whatever they throw out, it's not broke up and stuff. I'm not a junk lady. But they'll say, oh, Auntie, you can use that. I said, well, bring it to me. So when they bring it to me, it's a different color. Yellow, ain't nothing in here yellow. I used to use yellow, and they knew they hadn't been here in a long time. I said, well, my decor changed. I go all neutral colors now. See, scientists, you learn there's a lot of yellows. That wheel, it's a purpose for that wheel. Because you're like this. This is a wheel that you go, and it got all the colors in there. Everything that we use, you can wear. Now they put checks with stripes and circles with squares, in the clothes. People buy them like that. I said, what made you buy that? Oh, God, it's real. I said, but see, if you lived on our time, you wouldn't even wear that. Because they'll say, you're a black bottom baby. Certain clothes at a certain time will put you in that element. Now, what we wear? Knicker bottoms. They call them, they paddle pushers now, but they're knicker bottoms where the men used to wear them with the rub in the bottom. And the little rascals, when you see the little rich kids, what they got on? Them pants with the rubber on the legs. And they said, what? You see all that in the movie? I said, yeah. They said, oh my God, I got to start watching more often. I said, but little things like that, my eye catches. God, I almost had her name. The little girl that played in Alfalfa. That's where I look at us, the black bottom kids. We were the Little Rascals. That's when they made the Little Rascals, because they didn't have nothing, but they enjoyed what they had. What they do? Make a scoot out of what? Old wheels that they go down the alley and find and put them on there. Said, Darla was a little white girl. Everybody was after her. And Alfalfa, I can't think of the girl's name. She was so, and she said, I know, everybody after Carla. But she was Brady. That little girl was Brady. And Alfalfa, he was Brady. And they stand there. And that's the way I was looking. I had the old Buster Brown shoes that come up to the ankle. That means our ankles, the doctor just shot, because I don't have the fat ankles like, we wore them Buster Brown shoes. I hated them. The brown and the black. Black for the boys and brown for the girls. But it made your ankles strong. And it's like, when I see them, I said, that's me. With them little ugly shoes on, And that's what the city would give us. In Hastings, when Hudson was downtown, that's what and you go in the basement, you have your certificate. And I mean, it would be like 800-900 kids. So they have a date that you go down in Hudson's. And that's where, when they named it Macy's, The rainbow is Target. That was the basement in Hustle's. Wait a minute. I said, history repeats itself, but you got to know the background before you can enjoy it. I said, I study stuff like this. I'm sorry. If I'm too informational, I'm sorry. I think I got to know this to tell you this. So when you search it, then you go, she told the truth. I tell them, Google whatever I say, Google it. It's there. It black and white. That Google and Yahoo, that's mean the Chinese, they knew what to do when they started coming up in here. And the lady on the news, what she say? You rather for your kid to learn American than Chinese. Because if you think about it, they own everything. People come in here, and when I look at it, I know I get to talking now. And I look at it, I said, we the only free world. If you think about it, Nita, huh? You drive from here, you drive there, you go there. I said, but you're not free. They got one ruler. And what he say goes. Monarch. Anarchy. We don't have that. We vote our people in. These people stay until they die. The queen. She came to be the queen at what age? 12, when her dad died. Look how, she was 92 when she died. I said, that's one ruler. They don't have no senators and mayors, and they don't have that. So when you talk down on your country where you stay, you don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're saying. And then you let the outside come in and influence you. They trying to get to where you are. They want you where they are. Because they been there. You ain't been there. You free. Like a bird. Mind who you think in mind to put wherever. And they said, what you saying, Miss Jenkins? I said, just think before you leap. Don't be a frog on the lily pad. And then you get on the wrong lily pad. Boom, you go down, you sink. They said, oh my God, I never think about it. I said, yeah, a lily pad. That's why they sit on one lily pad. Because they don't trust them out there. Because he done did it already. So if you see somebody sitting, they done tried that and that. They already know what's happening. Ain't nothing out there. And that just like when they was taking the people to, I know I don't want to get off the subject, but when they sent them out to space, the one that went out there was 90 years old. When he came back, what did he do? William Shatner. When he went up on that ride, 6 minutes. That's 6 minutes. That's all it was, a 6-minute ride. What did he do? Come back. He kissed the earth and he cried like a baby. And what did he tell him? Love where you are, because there ain't nothing out there. Why does he want to go out? And then when Michael Strahan went, they paid him to say something. They couldn't pay William Shatner because he's older guy. And when he come back and he seen that Fright Night, I said, he got a story to tell. He saw it like it really was. And when he came back, he said, and then the man took his picture. He said, why is you crying? Because ain't nothing out there. Take care of this. Don't destroy this. Ain't nothing out there. Nothing but darkness. You think everything like us, we see clouds and stuff, but ain't nothing beyond. And they got a circle to get out. But it's really, it was only a 6-minute ride. And Michael Strahan, he came, I said, no, they paid him because he's young. And they paid him to say what they wanted him to say. It was a nice ride. No, it wasn't. Because all you got to do is think about it. You young and he old. Who's telling the truth? The older man is telling the truth. Because God always says, I call the old man because he what? He know. And the young guy because what? You have the strength, the power. You don't know nothing, but you got the strength that I need. And the old man know. So you better listen to him. That's what I tell him.
So I want to close out with this last question about, how do you want to be remembered?
Oh boy. Like a happy person, helped everybody, and they didn't know where I come from until they see this here. Then they know I come out the black bottom. I don't look like a black bottom person. I don't act like a black bottom person. But we were well educated at that time. The teachers loved us. I still remember all my first, second, third grade, all the way to sixth grade until I got to middle school. And then you start being treated like whatever at that time. It's altogether different, but just remember this lady. I had a lot of hats I had to wear. And I was a kid before I became a mother before I became a grandmother before I became a great-grandmother. Now I got my GGG. You know, I got so many great-grandbabies that I have not seen, but they're born. They'll send me the pictures of them, and then to help everybody. I was just loving on everybody, and everybody you can't help. You know, if they come and a stranger come, Mama, it's a stranger's door. I said, what they want? They said, Mama, you can't help everybody. I said, babe, what they want? And I used to have a little jug at the door. And when we go to the store, we put our change in there. And I just kept noticing it never filled up. I said, is there many people coming to my door asking for $1 to get to because they would come by and the word spread. Miss Jenkins will give you $1 if you need it, 50 cents if you need it, to go on the bus to get to work. And I kept looking at the little jar, the more I put in there, the less be in there. And I said, is somebody, y'all not telling me I work every day, so I can't accuse nobody. I said, but what's happening with this jar? So, and they guys like that, well, Mama, you see, we ran short. Because they would never tell a story. I said, be honest and truthful, whatever you do in life. Mm-hmm. Just don't tell them. Just be true. The truth hurt, but tell it anyway. Mm-hmm. And that's what I want them to know. I lived a good life, and I helped everybody. You know, and I thought I tell anybody, before you go into anything, you better study it, go to class for it. Just don't hop into it, because to say you love kids, that ain't working. With the system, that ain't working. You better think, because I had, when I became a foster parent, they asked me, you got to write a 300-page story about why you want to become a foster parent. And that really sat down and you start thinking and writing and thinking. It had to be 300 words, solid. I'll never forget, my cousin talked me into it. I said, why would I want to do that? And I got kids, and I was running for my babies, my sisters and brothers. I said, why you want me to do that? She said, because you can't see it, but you have that knowledge to help, and people will listen to you. Oh, shut up. I don't want to do that. And then I got myself going to the classes with her and stuff. And then I wind up 6 weeks in, and they came and they read my I had to write a 300 word. Why? I said, oh, I don't like kids. I take care of them while you love them. I said, I like kids because I come from that. I said, to take care of them. I don't want no kids suffering. If I can help them, get them a basement. The basement has to be built right. Mm-hmm. When you live in Florida, there's no basements. And I found out. It's based on sand down there. And then it's just wipe away. Their houses is on sand. When you see mudslides and stuff coming, they don't have no foundation. Mm-hmm. So you living on water, where they put all the sand to build houses, you see. And then I say, you just got to have a foundation solid. Detroit is the most solid city in the world. People trying to get back here. I'm not saying the rest of them is not, but Detroit is solid. It's solid going to get. And they just realized what they have. And who made them realize? Mayor Duggan. He come in. This guy, we wasn't even on the map. 313, if you went in with your phone number 313, you get no jobs. People don't understand that. They don't know that because I've been there, seen that, done that. I try to get plenty jobs, 313, in Detroit. And they look at the area code. Now, who put us on the map with 313? Everywhere you go now, you see a 313. They selling the shirts. They giving them away. Our governor, that mayor, our council people, when they come together like that, and that's what, when we do reparation, that's what I'm talking about. You don't just let stuff sit and look at it. You give it a meaning. Let these kids come in and use it. The kids nowadays, they go to the Greenfield Village, but they don't understand the meaning of Greenfield Village. They're just looking. They don't have hands on. And when I say hands on, they need to know what it is to light a fire with a pot belly with coal in it. You got to do the tweeds and then the newspaper, twist it up and burn it first. Then you put the wood, then you put the coal. Because if you do anything else, you make a fire and put the coal on that paper, it's going out because what? It's wet and it's heavy. Coal has to be on the outside because it got what? Gas. People just don't know the gas. And my knowledge that I seen, I'm very knowledgeable, and I just want the kids to know. If my students see this here, then that's my teacher. Wow, she was a good teacher. I see them in high places. They're in the banks, they everywhere. They got the good jobs, because when I taught them, they had to learn it. The timetables. You ain't counting on your fingers. You're gonna put it here. You're not going to put your hand behind your back counting stuff. That's not learning, baby. I said, when I come to you, do I count on my hands? Do I have my paper in front of me reading? I was a board teacher. I wore heels to school. I stayed on the blackboard. When the janitors come in, they said, what is all the whiteness of chalk? Because every class, I was a platoon, and all that be on the floor. He said, oh my God, Miss Jenkins, is there some way that you can... No, I don't sit. Math, you can't sit, teach math. These kids got to be on the board. You got to see what they're doing and let them know if this right, if it's wrong. Let them see. That's how they learn. Seeing is believing. Touching. I could teach all I wanted, but if teaching ain't going to go through. And all of them now bankers and stuff, lawyers. I said, I love you. There. I go to the bank and that's my teacher. Oh, no, you're not cashing my check. No. Miss Jenkins, why? No, because I know you. And I just do it. I said, no. Let them cash my check. Oh, Miss Jenkins. They say, that's really your student? I said, and they look older, I said, that's my student. I said, that's damaging. Don't do that. They said, okay. And they said, well, you was really a teacher. I said, yeah, no put downs. I live where they live. I'm still here. I ain't moved out. It's for a purpose and a reason. My kids, and then they call me a monarch because I've been here 63 years. And it's very seldom you can get a person to live in a house for 6 years and not move because they move out of there, sell it. It's not that they don't want to go to, but it's money in them that here. So you move it, you sell it, and you go to another place, Not that they want something bigger. They just want something more modern, sophisticated, and sometimes sophistication ain't it. This here is 120, 118, 123. This house is over 120 some years old.
Wow. So
when you work on it, you ain't gonna lose nothing because they don't make wood like this anymore. Everything in here is original, And the upstairs I changed totally, but where I live at is still all of the woodwork is original. I painted because it's dark, that dark oak, and you try to run a nail through that, you get fire. All these wood floors, fire. Even the porch, I got it covered and stuff. And they wanted to when I had it enclosed before I retired, I said, I want to live comfortably. Nobody run up on the porch on me when I get old. And then the man said, well, we need to change your porch. I said, no, you don't, because that stuff you using, it'll rot in 3 days. and one of my coworkers had them to do a whole porch, falling in. He put a nail through that. He got fired. He said, oh my God. I said, they don't make stuff like this. I said, genuine. Everything is genuine in here. And I love it. The only thing, I remodeled my kitchen, everything in the old stuff, I took it out. And the man, the people, antique, that's when they call them antique. They get it, they fix it, and they keep it up. But I'm old fashioned, but I'm modern. And I love it. Yes, I just, my kids, when they look at me, say, Mama, they don't make people like you anymore. I said, no, I'm an old bird. No, you're not. You're very knowledgeable. And when you learn, I said, I don't have to take that stuff that they're talking about for you to keep your brain. You can keep your own brain. Because, see, eventually, down the road, maybe 10 years, 20 years, what you took, neural path, whatever that was, they're going to find something wrong with that. You know, it takes them that long to find what's wrong with medicine, because when you make it just like the COVID shots, I show people, y'all don't have this, but we have it. Anybody that's old, they got this. And if people look at it, you know, we used to make jokes that, oh man, you should see the person that gave this to me, they worse. And they like, what? I said, this is how we got vaccinated. And it rise up like that cup. And then as it subsided, because everything was on that one needle, and they punctured, you know, in there, and you couldn't take a bath. You had to put plastic over that to take your bath and your showers and stuff. At the time we didn't have showers, so that was out. You take a bath. You bathe with oxygen soap. That's, you know, all this Dove and luxury stuff. We didn't have it, and it's a wonder that we are what we are. You know, and it's just, I'm telling you, if you weren't born rich, you were poor, and that's what Black Bottom was. If you wasn't rich, anybody that lived on this side of Woodward was in Black Bottom. On the other side, from Cortland all on the other side of Woodward, they had money. Even the blacks, they felt richer, and when they looked down at us when we go to the stores and stuff. What you looking at? Who are you? You got a problem with us? You know, and your hair, your hair would be nappy, but it's clean and it's fresh, and your hair was washed with oxygen soap. You know, drop. And you got naturally curly hair, you know, so they don't understand. You comb it out now, it little curls. And we was trying to get it straightened out to look like, cause we got tired of it being beaded tight. And then when they comb you go all the way down to the ground. washing powder, whatever they washed our hair with, it was just like, and it was nappy. And my mother was, she was a beautician, but she did our hair. She became a beautician so she could do our hair. And I know, if the people don't know, the ear burns. You go to school, they know you've been tagged, your neck, your forehead, you know, because they didn't care. Right. I'm doing your hair. And you be burnt to death. And kids now, they said, whoa, what? So you went to the laxative day. Them kids did not want them burns on their ears and their neck and their forehead. So I said, those was the days that you knew when you came up on hard time. Heat that on that gas stove and right up there and burn half your hair out. It'd be burned in the front. You can smell it. and Madam C.J. Walker, the one that made the straightening comb, that's how she was on Alexandrine. On the corner, but we was on, she was on Alexandrine and MacDougall, and we did not know who she was at the time. That lady would make her own combs, and my mother went down there, she made her comb to her hand, her straightening comb, her curling irons to her hand. That's how Madam C.J. Walker was at the time. She existed. We saw her. And I don't know whether her shop is still there or not.
Was it, there's somebody I found, Vivian Nash, does that name sound familiar? Like Be Do Beauty School, did you ever hear about that?
Could be, because see, we were younger. I was 16 and wasn't paying no attention to the lady. And my mother told, she said, well, I'm looking for a straightening comb. She said, well, you don't want them, because I went with her. She said, we'll make it for you so it'll fit your hand, so you can be familiar with it. And that's how my mother got her straightening comb, her curlers, everything matched her hand, because my mother had big hands. I got big hands. And she said, them is not going to fit your hand. We mold your hand for you to get when you leave out of here. And it wasn't expensive. It was reasonable. And now they got Madam C.J. Walker. She's gone, but the people that represent her still do the straightening combs. They just now start making the pressing curl. I mean the pressing oil that you do with the pressing curl. You know, so you can get the straightening in the hair. Because just the comb itself ain't gonna do it, because your hair roll right back up. But those are things I've learned growing up, that I got a chance to see in my 16, 17, 18 years old. And when the house caught a fire, those are people that came and responded, you know, but you don't know who they were, but they all responded. Those people now are probably dead and gone, and everything is gone. And it's like when they see you, you look familiar. And I said, oh boy. I said, I know where you're going with this. The fire chief. He was the one that came to put the fire out. He said, man, I often wonder what happened to that family. Because he said, that's still on my mind. And I looked at him and he said, you was one of the older ones. I said, yeah, and I was the third oldest. But at that time I was 60-something, 63. He said, my God, my God. He said, oh my God. And he called all his crew. He said, these people, because we went to look at a fire. When the lady it's been 50 years, she got burnt up. Them walked on that wire. When the down wires, people just don't understand. You don't ride over them, you don't jump on them, you don't walk over them. You leave that, because that's 45,000 volts that go through the body. When that girl walked on that fire down there, on that wire, the lady had sit there all day. She made her move. She had a two-family flat on the corner. She moved from there because they wasn't listening to her. They was jumping back and forth, riding their bikes over. And the holes are still there. That cement. If it put a hole in the cement, what you think it's going to do to you? Right. And she lit up that night. It was 11 o'clock. We were finna go down, and I had bathed my kids and stuff. And I saw this bright light. I said, oh, Lord, the Lord, oh. I'm thinking, when the Lord said, I'm coming in the thief of the night. And you know your church stuff. And that thing lit up. It lit up 3 blocks. And when I looked at this house, it was houses all the way down. But it was lit up. The whole sky was lit up. And we ran out, the kids. I said, don't come out of here naked, don't come out of here naked. I said, put some clothes on. They said, Mama, what was that? I said, I don't know. It's like God done lit us up over here. And people come from far and near. It was 3 miles she lit up. And that lady moved. She moved from that house. That was her mother's home, and she left it. She said, I've been telling them all day. And to do this, she said, I got to move from here. Lord, I can't sit on this corner. She was really serious. I said, that's your house. Why you move? She said, I can't stay here, Miss Jenkins. I got to go. And her daughter, I taught her daughter at school, and she said, they don't listen. She was black like this, and they told her people, and she had holes big as her is that in there, because she blew out. And they put a cover. We're going to take her. She's going to be all right. I said, don't lie. I said, please stop lying. This lady is not coming back. He said, ma'am, back up, move back, and don't say anything. He says, the way you, I said, these people all, if they don't know, they will know. When she hit the ground, she sounded like a tree. That let you know there, she's a tree.
Right.
And they said, oh my God, she's hard. I had kids, you don't stop lying to people. He said, we have to do this, ma'am. And that was the EMS. I said, well, I'm so used to telling people the truth. I'm sorry. I just tell them just like if they ask you, just don't say anything. I said I have to say something, sir, because they're gonna be looking for her to come back and walk down this because she's been walking. And you have to say something. Tell the truth. And I'm snagging tooth, but I'm still telling the truth. That's what they always say. Tell the truth, snagging tooth. You know.
Well, thank you for sharing.
Oh my God. I didn't think it would never come.
Yes.
I never thought it would come out to light.
Yes.
And oh my God, it's just, you live with this within your heart, knowing that nobody would never know how you lived, your situations. And then when you get a chance to tell it, all you want to do is just blur it out. Just, it's so much to tell. You just don't know when to stop and shut up.
You did great.
Thank you.
You did great.